So today we're going to start something new called Testimony Tuesday. Last week we tested out Twitch's call-in feature, guest star, whatever it's called, and brought some people on and got to, hear what was going on and just have some good conversations. And I thought that'd be a good tool to use for hearing people's testimonies. We can use it for other things in the future too, but I'm going to try this out for a while. So if you would ever like to share your testimony with everyone and have a conversation about it or whatever, I'd love to have you on. Let me know, send me a message, send me a DM, whatever, and we can make that happen. But we'll start doing that on Tuesdays as long as we have someone who's willing to share. But I figured I may as well start us off. So today I'm going to be sharing some of my testimony. Y'all have heard bits and pieces of it, but maybe not the whole thing. Or at least certainly not the whole thing in one sitting. So I'll be sharing not just about like the salvation piece, how I came to know the Lord, but also certain major struggles and events that I've walked through in my life that the Lord has brought me through, and how He's worked in my heart and on me and changed me through them. So I hope that this is encouraging to you. Well, I guess we'll go all the way back to the beginning. Well, actually, no, before that. So y'all know me as I am now, that I've been here at my local church serving in pastoral ministry for, we're in our 17th year. My wife and I, we have 4 beautiful, amazing, lovely children, 2 biological, 2 adopted. I've been streaming here online for we're in our 7th year doing that, trying to be a light in a dark place. And it's all really cool. And God has just been so gracious to me throughout my life, has blessed me in so many ways that I could have never asked or hoped for and certainly don't deserve. But the way that I've, or kind of what God has brought me through, we got to go all the way back. So I was very blessed to be born into a true Christian family. And when I say that, I don't mean cultural Christianity. I don't mean just, oh yeah, we go to church and, whatever. We're good, moral people. No, I mean true, genuine, born-again Christians for parents and so much of my extended family. And that's a huge blessing. Not everyone can say that, so I'm very grateful to that, or for that fact. And my parents... I've got one younger sister. She's in chat often. I don't know if she'll be here today or not. I hadn't seen her yet, but they had us in church all the time. We were there several times a week. We were at a big church in Houston, and we were very like inner circle type people. So we were always up there for, Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, like band practices, different events and stuff. We were there a lot. So I was at church, just about as much as I was at school or home, it felt like. But they read the Word to us. Like we learned the Word together as a family when we were growing up. They prayed with us growing up, and my parents introduced me to Christ at a young age. I don't remember exactly the day or the moment when I was born again. I know that I was baptized at 8. And that was after, already walking with the Lord for some time, and that showing to be genuine in my life. And my parents and pastors, obviously, I guess, saw that in me and realized that I understood what that meant and that I was truly saved. And so followed the Lord in water baptism at 8 years old. So sometime before that, but as far as I can remember, I can't remember a time before loving Jesus. I love the Lord with all my heart, with all my soul, with all my mind, with all my strength. So often whenever you hear me say, that I'm a real pastor who plays Pokemon Doom and everything in between, all with the intention of sharing the love of God with the gaming world, because I believe God loves gamers and so do I, that sharing the love of God piece, yes, it does mean like sharing the gospel and being a light and praying with people and reading the word. And it does mean those things, but it also kind of means sharing my love for God. I love God and I love sharing that love with you. So I can't remember a time before that I did not love the Lord. as far back as I can remember. And that's such a huge blessing because that is a result of my parents raising me in the fear and admonition of the Lord. Throughout my life, before I get into specifics, throughout my life, God has always been so faithful and has kept me from myself time and time again, has kept me from falling into stupid pits that if I were left to my own devices, I would have. Things that I would have willingly gone and ruined my life and destroyed my life. But God has always kept me. He has always been faithful. There's a song that came out just a few years ago called The Goodness of God, and it's one that I love because I resonate with it so much. The words resonate with me so much. All my life you have been faithful. All my life you have been so, so good. Your goodness is following after me, is chasing after me, is running after me. That's been my experience, that God has always been faithful, and He has always kept me in His hand. I'm so grateful for that. But that does not mean that I have not fallen on my face many, many times. I need the grace and mercy of the Lord every day. Every day. And when I was about, I guess I was 16. I may have been 15 whenever it started, but when I was like 15, I was 15. When I was 15, my mom picked me up from school one day and in the car told me that Dad was going to be moving out. It's like, what? What are you talking about? Long story short there, within a year, my parents got divorced. My sister and I never saw it coming because they never fought or argued or showed us that there was any issue ever. ever. So it was completely out of left field for us. My sister was 4 years younger than me, so she's like, 11, 12, something like that. And my parents gave me the choice of, once they had decided to divorce and went their separate ways, let me decide who I wanted to live with. Because I was a little bit older, a little bit closer to, moving out, going off to college and doing whatever anyway. And that was a really difficult season. It was where, from that day on, I've still always said this and still to this day say this, that I basically became homeless that day. That my home that I had always known, it no longer existed. I still have my dad, who is remarried, very happily remarried. They're doing wonderful. And my mom, who is happily remarried, they're doing wonderfully. And I still have great relationships with them and can visit them and they visit us and all that. And that's all great. But that is not the home that I grew up in. If I want to take my kids to my home, I can't because it doesn't exist anymore. So I had to decide who I was going to live with. And I ultimately decided to go with my dad for the sole reason of tennis. So many of y'all know that I was not ever pursuing pastoral ministry. This was never on my radar at all. Certainly not streaming, but I mean pastoring, anything like that. Never in my wildest dreams. As a little kid, I said that because I had grandparents who were pastors and whatever, and I looked up to them and I thought that would be cool, but that was just me being a little kid. But I was a tennis player. That's what I did every day of my life from my 5th birthday until I was 22. For 17 years straight, if I wasn't at school, in church, or asleep, I was doing something related to my tennis career. So I've traveled all over the place and played tennis. You name the thing, I've done it. I've been there. I got the trophy. I got the shirt. I've done it. All-American, top 10 in the country, traveled here and there, won this, won that, all that. I've done all the stuff. And that was the plan for my life. That was my parents' plan. That was my plan. That's what I was going to do. So I got a full ride to go play for the number one team in the country. So whenever I turn 18, I move out and I never go home because I don't have home anymore. Anyway, but went off to go play tennis. And that was the reason that I chose to go with my dad, because my dad they were both very supportive of my tennis. Obviously, you had to be for me to get to that kind of level. But it was like he was living vicariously through me. It was his dream, his desire, because he loves tennis. He still plays. He still travels and does tournaments and leagues and plays multiple times a week. I play 1 or 2 times a year now, and it's against him, and I go destroy him 6-0, 6-0 every time, and he cries about it, and it's funny. I say, "You did this. You created me like this. It's your fault." But if I wanted to really have a chance in tennis, I needed to go with him because he was going to push it harder than my mom would. My mom cared more about me as a person. This sounds bad, but just try to understand what I mean. Cared more about me as a person. He cared more about me as a tennis player. I don't mean that in a bad way. He just, if I were like, "I'm not liking this, I'm not into this, whatever," my mom would have been like, "Well, I don't want to push you," or whatever. My dad would be like, "Get over it. Come on. We put too much into this. You got to push through." And so he that's what I did. Because I chose that, my sister went with my mom. My sister at some point will come on here and tell her testimony. She's agreed to do that. She has the very typical been there, done that, every awful experience and saved out of just radical darkness. Her testimony is very, very powerful. So look forward to that. That'll happen in the future one day. But a lot of that stuff started after that divorce. And it was just because she was so young and trying to process it, and it led to a lot of bad things. Thankfully, I was a little older, so I didn't go down any of that kind of path. But so that's kind of what sent me to where I am today, because in my freshman year of college, while I'm playing at that number one team in the country, that's whenever felt like the Lord was calling me into pastoral ministry, and started going through that process and 4 years of education there while doing my secular studies and playing tennis and blah, blah, blah. Y'all have heard that story. But that school was here in the city I still live in to this day. This became my new home base, and I met my wife, and we've been married all these years and all that, and it's wonderful. But there's more to the story than just that, because throughout my life, there have also been some very difficult struggles, and we all have difficult struggles. I'll just highlight a few of the major ones that I've walked through. So these are some of the ones that you may have heard bits and pieces of, but certainly never all in one place. So when I was 16, again, around that same time, like around the time that my parents split and we're going through divorce and everything, I was, well, let me say this. I was just like all of us back then, and the late 90s, early 2000s, whatever. We had a family computer, and I was destroying that family computer with LimeWire, downloading music and whatever and all that kind of stuff, and destroying the family computer as we all did, because that's what LimeWire was for. It was for destroying your home computer and filling it with viruses. But something happened that I did not expect while I moved on from downloading music, because I was never really that big into music, still am not to this day. But I learned that, you can download episodes of TV shows. And I remember we were saying earlier, I love Dragon Ball. Always have, since I was a kid. I used to watch it on Toonami all the time and loved that. But if you remember those days, we had 53 episodes in the Ocean dub. That's it. And whenever it got to episode 53 and Goku's fighting, or about to fight Raccoon, or no, he just fought Raccoon and he's about to fight Burger and Jace, it would start over with Raditz showing up. And I was like, no, when is it going to continue the story? Well, I learned that I could download episodes from Japan that I had not seen yet. So I started doing that. And I was watching, and they'd be kind of here and there on all over the place. So I was a little confused. Sometimes I'd get one right in the middle of, like, Namek is being destroyed and, lava everywhere, and Goku's got blonde hair now. And I'm like, what is this? And it was so cool. I love doing that. There's a reason I'm telling you this. Because one of those episodes that I downloaded was not the episode. It was titled, Dragon Ball Z episode, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And that's what I was looking for, and that's what I downloaded. But when I opened that file, it was not Dragon Ball. It was pornography. I was scared when I saw it. What the heck? I had never been exposed to anything like that. I had never desired to find anything like that. It scared me. Just being totally honest, it scared me to death. Closed it immediately. What the heck? What was that? I was a very just like innocent, naive, kind of how I am right now, just very, blissfully unaware, floating through life. It feels like sometimes. Y'all probably know that about me now. But I've always been like that. And so I never wanted to find that, never desired to find that or anything. But that was a very fateful moment, because while I was looking for Dragon Ball to watch more episodes, I was exposed to something I never should have been exposed to. And for the next 2.5 years, that started nothing like, a lot of people really, really, really struggle and get addicted to it. But it did start an addiction. And it was something that I was immediately very convicted over, and would, try not to watch or indulge or whatever. But I was still learning how to be led by the Spirit and how to fight against temptation and all that. That's why we have so many videos on our YouTube about that very topic, because it comes up so often in these streams. Hey, I'm struggling here. I'm struggling with pornography or whatever. And so I say, hey, here's some helpful thoughts. Here's some helpful scriptures. Let's pray for you, all those kind of things. But I was still very young and trying to learn those things. And so I was in that fight for about 2.5 to 3-ish years. So from 16 to like 18, 19-ish. Yeah, blissfully ignorant. That's right. The thing that really, or a really big part of breaking free from that addiction for me, was actually premarital counseling. So when I was 18 and at college, I met my now wife of how many years? 16, 17, something like that. A lot of years. And I was already like starting to get to the point of breaking free from that, but there were certain things I still needed to work through. And that was whenever I really worked through everything. So my wife and I, before we got married with our pastor, we walked through pastoral counseling together. And pastoral counseling, or pre-marriage counseling, sorry, is what I should say. Pre-marriage counseling is a very important and vital thing for anyone who's pursuing marriage. Highly recommend, because you will work through all the stuff, all the baggage, all the things in your past. And we did. We had to take the lid off of everything and talk about everything, because one of the cool things about any secret hidden sin or whatever is the enemy loves to make you think that you're alone, you're the only one who's walking through it, and convinces you to keep that secret. But whenever you shine light on it, when you expose it, it shrivels up and starts to die. And so that's a difficult, a painful thing, but it's also a beautiful and necessary thing. So that's what we did. We started shining light on that and talking through all of it together. So it's me, my wife-to-be, and our pastor talking about these old skeletons that I was keeping in my closet. So through that process, the Lord delivered me from that addiction, and it hasn't been a struggle for me. And I'm very, very grateful for that. That doesn't mean that I've never struggled with lust since, because I'm a person too. We all struggle with different things to different degrees. But this was kind of my story of how the Lord helped me to learn how to get victory over that particular temptation. And so now, whenever that temptation rears its ugly head in my life, I know what to do. I'm very sensitive to the conviction of the Holy Spirit. I have the tools to combat that. But that was not the only difficult season. It was not just with lust. In the first year of our marriage, this one will really shock you, for those of y'all who've been around and know me for a while. I started dealing with anger really bad. Maybe not as bad as some, but it doesn't matter. We're not comparing. Like, it doesn't matter if, well, I'm not as bad as them. Hey, you still sin. You fall short. We all fall short. And anger became a new thing that I had never dealt with. Like, y'all don't probably think of me as a very angry person, because I never was. And whenever I went through that, or that first year of marriage, the first year of marriage is tough. For any of y'all who've been married for any length of time, if you think back to your first year, I don't know where this whole honeymoon phase comes from. No, I mean, yeah, there's a little bit of that, but once real life kicks in, and it kicks in pretty quick, you can have all the premarital counseling in the world. Now you're living under the same roof. You're learning how to do life together, and everything that your spouse was brought up with versus everything that you were brought up with. And now you have to learn how to merge that from just little daily things, the routines that you have in the morning and the evening, what kind of food y'all eat, how you eat, how you take care of money, introducing sex into your relationship. That's a whole new thing. All these different things, and trying to figure out how to make them work and process this. It's a lot. And I got stressed. I got overwhelmed. I did not enjoy the process of learning how to do life together. I wanted it to just be like, okay, let's skip the learning part and let's just be happy together. But you can't do that, because one of you would have to completely bend to the other, and that's not going to happen. So you have to have difficult conversations. You have to work through things and be a listener and all those kind of things. And I was not willing to be patient. So instead of listening and bending to certain things, well, what's the word I'm thinking of? Compromising on certain things that I was used to. Instead, I let it out through anger. So I was throwing stuff. I was yelling. I was getting red in the face. I was getting frustrated. I was storming out. I was leaving. And not even going anywhere. I didn't have anywhere to go. I just go drive angrily and go sit in a parking lot till I cooled off and then come home. And then she'd be upset and we wouldn't talk to each other for 2 days. It was tough. Another difficult part about that is we got married while I was still in college, which my parents both said, hey, not a good idea, because of all these extra things. Said, wait till y'all are graduated. You got the rest of your lives. Just hold off a little more. But we were impatient and wanted to get married, so we did. And so I had almost my full senior year of that. So remember, I'm still studying for ministry at this point. I'm in my senior year of college, playing for one of the top tennis teams in the country. I'm still traveling everywhere for college, and I'm still studying. My wife is a year older than me. So she's already out of college, and she's started her career as a teacher. She's adjusting to that, but I'm gone a lot. And when I'm back, I'm not being patient and I'm blowing up and whatever. So that first year for us was really, really difficult. It's a miracle we made it through. It's a miracle we made it through. And again, we went to counseling. We went to marriage counseling now. We had been in premarital counseling a lot. We had to go to marriage counseling a lot. And we had to talk through these things and have our pastor listen and help us to think through things and listen to each other and all of that. And if it wasn't for that, I don't know that we would have made it through that first year, because she was very gracious to put up with me and the anger that I had. Once we worked through those things and I started learning how to listen and became willing to compromise on certain things that I was just too hard to, like, my mind, my heart, my head was too hard to change and bend a little bit. We started growing together and loving our life and building our own life and our own foundation. Yeah, W wife. There's a reason wife starts with W. Yes, she is definitely a W wife. I told her, what was it, 2 nights ago, I walked home. I got home, walked in the door, and she had made several fresh loaves of bread after milling all her own flour, made a bunch of cookies, had made, what did she make? She made a couple other things had been smoking like a pulled pork roast thing and just all this stuff. And I was like, what did I do to deserve you? How did I get you? That was the words I said. I said, how did I get you? And our kids who have heard a lot of the stories about us dating and whatever, she said, you annoyed her a lot, remember? I said, oh yeah, that's right, I did. That's how I got her. But yeah, I certainly did not deserve, still don't deserve such a wonderful woman who has been so patient and gracious with me. So ever since then, anger has not been an issue for me. But again, it doesn't mean that I don't fall short sometimes there, because we all do. I said this on the last one, I'll say this one on the anger one. You wouldn't think of me as someone who gets angry, because you never really see that. But I can get angry, but I've learned the tools to deal with that. So that's why you've heard me say a lot whenever people come in and they say, I struggle with anger, can you pray for me? And some of y'all could already type it because I've said it so many times. The thing I always say is, hey, close your eyes, take a few breaths, and respond instead of react. Because that's what I had to learn how to do. Ironic that in my secular university studies, I was a speech comm major, speech communications. So I learned so much about the idea of listening being a part of communicating, but I was not so good at it at first. And still growing. The next big struggle or pit for me was a season where I walked through depression. It was about 18 months, started in 2016. And so this was before I ever started streaming. Y'all didn't know me during this time, but by the time I went through this, I had already been in pastoral ministry for several years. I had been married for several years. We had 2 kids, 2 of our 4, and everything on paper looked good, looked perfect. Should be no issues at all. But there were issues. There were issues in here. It all kind of came to a head with the situation I won't go into, but the difficulty and pain of that situation really just knocked me down, and I didn't know how to respond or react. I had all the Bible answers for the problem, but it didn't do anything. The Bible answers didn't fix anything. I would pray all the time, and it didn't take it away. It didn't disappear just because I was praying. It didn't disappear just because I knew where to go read in the Bible. Nothing I seemed to do could shake this deep, dark pit that I found myself in. If you want to hear the full details of my journey, this journey through depression, I've got a video telling all of it on YouTube. But the shorter version is that for those 18 months, every prayer that I prayed was an angry prayer. My time in the Word did not feel fruitful, did not feel like I was growing closer to the Lord. It felt like a lifeline to keep me going. I related very strongly to some of David's words in the Psalms about like bring light back to my eyes. Psalm 42 and 43, I've read on here many times. A couple weeks ago, remember I was just having a difficult day mentally, and which you'll never really see that side of me because this doesn't come up that much. But I was having a tough time, a tough day. And so I read on stream, I read Psalm 42 and 43. You may have been here for that stream. It was within the past month. And I was crying while I was reading it. I almost cannot read those two Psalms without crying. Even if you look back to the full Bible read through that I did in 2024, if you go to the video that has Psalm 42 and 43, my eyes are getting a little red and I'm getting a little choked up. I powered through. You might not be able to tell, but I could tell looking back at it. I noticed when I was editing it. And those two Psalms, I called them in a video, two Psalms that saved my life. And in many ways, I felt like it did, because without going too deep, that pit of despair and depression can get really dark, really dark. And like I said, no matter how much I prayed, no matter what I read, nothing lifted that cloud. Nothing pulled me out of it. I had all the answers in my head, but it didn't fix anything, didn't change anything. Yeah, Ping, that verse. It says it 3 times throughout those two Psalms. Why are you cast down, O my soul, and why are you in turmoil within me? Hope in God, for I shall again praise him, my salvation and my God. It's right there. I don't know if you can see it, but yeah. So while I was walking through this, I made a crucial mistake. I didn't tell anybody. Literally, the only person on the planet who knew was my wife, because it was impossible to hide it from her. But I didn't go get counseling like I should have. Like what worked for the lust and what worked for the anger, it probably would have helped a lot for the depression. I didn't do it. I had too much pride. I didn't want anyone to know because I'm a pastor. Because remember, at that point, I've been a pastor for several years. Pastors don't deal with that. Newsflash. Pastors deal with it a lot. A lot of pastors really struggle with depression, with anxiety, with those kind of things. It's very common. Sadly, it's very common. And I had too much pride to open my mouth and tell someone I'm struggling. I need help. And so I fought that fight alone. My wife loved me through it, was patient with me through it, prayed for me through it, but she couldn't help me. She tried, she couldn't help me. I would do the things that everyone tells you to do. You know, well, go outside, go work and sweat and work out and get some endorphins and whatever, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I did that. Not really because I wanted to, but because there was work to do. We got land to take care of. I'm out there with a chainsaw and sweating my head off, you know, buckets of sweat. And yeah, there were momentary seasons of relief. Like when I'd be outside and I'm sweating or whatever, I did feel better to a degree. But as soon as I stopped, as soon as I went inside, took a shower or whatever, it was right back down in the pit. And through it all, it was like there was this little light inside of me. It's the only way I can describe it. It's like the picture that I felt in that time. There was this little light that nothing could extinguish. That was the hope that I had in Christ. That was the joy that I had in the Lord. But the rest of my body, if you're seeing like one of those diagrams at the doctor, like here is your body. There's a little beam of light in the middle, but everything else is this thick, inky black tar. And it was trying to smother out the light. And it never could. But still, I couldn't bring myself out of it. And then one day, about 18 months later, it was, only way I can describe it is that God brought me out of that pit. Because I didn't do anything different this time. I didn't go through counseling. I didn't find some, miracle magic cure for depression. Just at some point, the Lord brought me out of that pit. And every now and then, again, I'll struggle. I'll have a difficult day. And with this one, I don't really feel like I have the tools because I never found a cure for it last time. But thankfully, I've never tumbled back into that pit. There's just been days that it's a tough day. I'm struggling today. And I go to the Word and I read those 2 Psalms and I pray. And thankfully, it's never lasted more than a day when it has come up again. But it was about 18 months straight that I'm fortunate to have survived. Through all these things, God has been faithful. That's why I love that song, The Goodness of God. All my life, you have been faithful. All my life, you have been so, so good to me. Your goodness is running after me. God is faithful. I don't know what you're going through. I don't know what season of life you find yourself in. And I know there's people who have those radical testimonies. And I love those. And like I said, Testimony Tuesday, if you ever want to share yours, I'd love to hear it. If you're willing to share. But this is my story. And while I never went into those super deep, dark sins and whatever and fell into anything and everything, even though I've been walking with the Lord as long as I can remember, there are still valleys. There are still struggles. We still have to contend with the flesh. And I want to encourage you that God is faithful, that He will never leave you or forsake you. And like it says in Psalm 23 that everyone loves and quotes, even if you don't know anything else about the Bible, you probably know Psalm 23, where it says, "Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me." And that's so true. I walked and have walked, and in the future, I'm sure will walk again through valleys. But I know that He has always been with me, even when it didn't feel like it, even in the depths of depression, even whenever I was fighting against this demon of lust, I felt like I couldn't get off my back, even whenever I was overcome with anger, which I had never dealt with before and didn't know how to process. He was always with me, has always been with me, and so He will never leave you or forsake you. God is faithful. And if you're in one of those kind of situations, highly, highly recommend go talk to your pastor. Go get some pastoral counseling, some one-on-one counseling, talking about things, opening up and processing and working through things with others is so incredibly helpful. Now, I've been on the other side of these issues and have been able to walk through things with people in my church and friends and family even, whenever they've gone through some of these same things. And I've been there to say, hey, I know what that's like. I've been there. Here's my story. Here's how God helped me through this. Here's some helpful scriptures. Here, let me pray for you. Let me think through this with you. Let's talk about this, whatever. Even the depression piece. Because remember, I had been a pastor for several years at that point, but I was not equipped to minister to people walking through it because I had never walked through it. I didn't know what that felt like. So I would try, do my best to point them to helpful scriptures and things, but I couldn't empathize because I'd never walked through it. So I remember I would say those things, but in the back of my mind, I was like, I get anxiety and depression and those kinds of, I've still never dealt with anxiety, but my wife and oldest daughter have. So I've seen that now and have walked through that with them. But the depression piece, I was always like, just snap out of it. Yeah, no, you can't just snap out of it. It's not that easy. Stupid PastorDoostyn. But now I am able to empathize. I am able to relate. And that's the best reason I can come up with that the Lord allowed me to walk through that, is so that I'm better equipped to minister to people who are walking through that. Because outside of that, I cannot think of any reason that I went through it. Because remember, on paper, everything was fine. Everything was fine. But that's my story. I hope it's been a blessing and an encouragement to you. And like I said, in the future, I'd love to hear y'all's stories. If you'd ever be willing to share, send me a message, reach out, and we can do it live on a stream on Tuesday. And since I'll upload this to YouTube later, I'll go ahead and end the video side of it and say, like I say all the time, that until I see you again, know that God loves you, and so do I.